But let me tell you that lest you think it can't touch us here, it's already here. This nice river that we put in down here, called the Oklahoma River now, with all the rocks and all the properties that are being built around that river, is an Agenda 21 project. You see all of the nice townhouses and apartments that are being built in downtown Oklahoma City. Those are Agenda 21 projects. The new schools that they put in on Maps 1 and Maps 2 are all Agenda 21 projects. And if you travel throughout this state, regardless of what community you live in, you will find Agenda 21 projects. In Edmond, in Norman, although they have rejected Agenda 21, there are projects there that are part of the system. I read an article just a couple of days ago that talked about, and I've been saying this for at least for a year and a half or so, all these new apartments that they're building in downtown, they have a problem with those townhouses and apartments because they are short of services. Very few gas stations, no grocery stores, no shopping. That's all in the plan. It's coming to downtown Oklahoma City. The idea is to move people in to downtown and for you to work and live and play within 220 square meters, or not meters, maybe 220. It's just a short area around where you live. All the communities will be walking communities. Their intention is to do away with private ownership of automobiles. You can have a bicycle, or you can have a little pedometer on your waist and you can check how far you walk. They already have cities built to test the system and see if it will work. In China, they built an entire city where no automobiles or gas-powered vehicles are allowed inside the city limits. You walk, or you ride your bike, or you take public transportation. For years, we've talked about this conspiracy that I heard about when I was a young man back in 1971. I think I got my first conspiracy book from a friend and started reading about all these conspiracy theories. And I don't know if all of those things are true, but I can tell you one thing. This thing snuck in the back door for us common people. It's not that way through the government, and it's not that way through most of the world. Most of the world knows exactly what's going on. But Agenda 21 is a project to equalize the world. If you want to know what communism is, the reason I put Hitler and Obama and Bush on the front of this video that I just put together is because Hitler, although we called his government Nazi, was a militant socialist government. A militant socialist government. When Russia saved all their people from Germany to keep them from being overthrown, they created a militant socialist government. In Germany, they called it Nazi. In the Soviet Union, they called it communism, after the father of communism. Obama, before he became senator, when he was walking the streets as a community servant in the streets of Chicago, was a socialist and a proclaimed socialist. He taught socialism. George Bush, he wore the flag of a Republican. But let me tell you something, folks. Maybe you see things different than I do. But since I've been a young fellow, watching politics to some degree, not as involved as of lately, like Rod said, there has only been one president in the line of presidents that has stepped out of the line and not been complicit with this plan. His name was Ronald Reagan. This plan began in the early 1900s, and some people think before that. When they took over the education system in the United States in 1933, I believe it was, they started heavily imposing liberal professors in colleges, taking over the higher education systems. The system began to fall. The flower children of the 1960s were a result of an education system that gave them information that told them that was the better way. That was the way to live, and they formed their communes, and they thumbed their nose at society, and they did their best to have all the disruption. They changed their music, they changed their clothing style, they did everything to be different from the status quo. Guess what? Those guys grew up. And you know where they're at right now? They're standing in the colleges teaching our kids. And they're in the White House, and they're up north on the Hill making decisions for us. And this is the kind of decisions we get out of those people. Let me ask you another question. Do you know who the people were at Occupy Wall Street? They were young college students. Nobody knows where the main money came that sustained them and kept them there, and most of them had no idea what they were doing there. But they were there because they were supposed to be. At the High Noon Club the other day, we learned that they were supplied with drugs. They had a table in the park at Wall Street where they actually rolled marijuana cigarettes and smoked them at night. And he said, as a person who was there, dressed up in, Charles Sasser was there, he said that the smoke of marijuana was so thick at night you could hardly breathe. You don't see the collusion, the path? This thing has been coming for a long time. It's had different names. And let me tell you what else. They're changing the name of it. Now, in 1992, let me correct the video, President George Bush was not at the conference. He was in Prince Charles' yacht offshore of Rio, along with several other presidents and heads of states who signed the document on that boat and sent it back ashore. I look at him and I thought, man, this is an American veteran hero. He flew dive bombers in World War II, and I think, man, he must be somebody. But that document and its path has not changed in direction, as far as I know, in my lifetime, except for Ronald Reagan. And I don't know what complications he was involved in. I don't know if he knew about it or was part of it or fought it. But to my knowledge, his presidency was different than all the others. But George Bush, who signed this document at the 1992 Accords, brought it back home and laid it on his desk because it was at the end of his presidency, the first executive order passed by William Clinton when he got into office was to ratify this document and support it to the UN. And we've been on board since then. So lest you think it's not going to come here, it's already here. And it's all over us. Everything we touch is involved. Let me tell you how tight it gets. How many of you know what the water rights in Colorado are right now? How many of you are familiar with that? In Colorado, by state law, the state owns the water. Nobody can touch the water. You can't even collect a cup of water out in the rain without permission. You can't pond on your property. If you've got 500 head of cattle and you want to put a pond on